Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm very happy to have you here, guys. In today's video I want to try out 6 fragrances for the autumn season. Autumn is finally here. I can finally try out more heavier fragrances. I can finally talk about them here on YouTube with you. So yes, like I said, today I want to try out 6 fragrances. I want to share my thoughts about a fragrance called AREEQ GOLD by Lattafa. Another one from Lattafa called QIAM GOLD, about a fragrance that I got quite a lot of questions, especially lately. This one is called the Nasheet from Lattafa. I kindly received this decant along with a bunch of other samples and decants from someone who's watching my videos. If you're watching this video, thank you so much. I don't want to mention her name because I don't know if she wants me to mention her name, but you know who you are, and thank you so much. I want to share my thoughts about another fragrance called TURATHI Brown, another one called TURATHI Purple for women, both from Afnan, and finally a fragrance called from Afnan called Supremacy Gold. So in no particular order, I will leave these ones for last because they are more heavy, and I feel like if I try them now my nose will get tired. So let's just start with a fragrance called TURATHI Femme Purple from Lattafa. Now something I want to mention, I feel like you're used to, like if you've been watching my videos for a while, you are used to me saying this, but for the sake of today's video, I will spray all of them on paper, but I have tried all of them multiple times on my skin, so I am aware how they smell on the skin and how they change on the skin and so on and so forth. I keep mentioning this because some people, maybe they watch my videos for the first time, let's say, and I get, and I get comments like, you should try them on your skin. I am trying them on my skin, you guys. I have never talked about a fragrance here on YouTube that I haven't tried at least once on my skin, you know. Now this one, TURATHI Purple, look, in all honesty, I feel like this is marketed for women, but this could easily be a unisex fragrance. Yeah, it's beautiful. I like it. It's bold, it's out there. Definitely not what I was expecting it to smell like. But I'm not mad about it, you guys. It's a very different take. I feel like it definitely stands out. It's not that like easy, rich type of easy to blind buy kind of fragrance. When I first smelled it, to me, it reminded me, if you have tried Mirsaal with Love from Afnan, you know that creamy oak moss accord mixed with caramel that you have there, you have the exact same oak moss accord here as well. But in Mirsaal with Love, that one is mixed with a funky wood, with a wood that has a quite a pronounced shady undertone. Whereas the one here is mixed with some woody nuances, some like rich, deep woody nuances, and a creamy vanilla dark fruity accord in the background. I feel like if I were to deconstruct this fragrance, imagine you have the fruity accord from Vie Est Belle from Lancome, mixed with the woody accord, that like rich, deep woody feel that you have in amber wood from Ajmal or in rosewood from Ajmal, because I feel like both have a pretty similar woody accord, mixed with the creamy oak moss with caramel that you have in Mirsaal with Love. Now, if you can picture how these fragrances would smell like mixed together, you have something similar to this one. Yeah, it's very beautiful, honestly. It's quite deep, it's quite dark, it's quite bold, it's quite mysterious at the same time. First, when I smell it, first I get the oak moss. The oak moss, I feel like in the opening is slightly overpowering the composition a bit, especially if you're not a fan of oak moss. I honestly don't know if you would enjoy this fragrance. You do have to appreciate this like deep, dark, green, slightly earthy, slightly dry nuance in fragrances to fully appreciate this fragrance, because I feel like even though the oak moss feel, as it starts to develop, it gets a tad bit sweeter, a tad bit creamier, but it never fully goes away, you know. So you will have this scent from the moment you apply it up until the dry down. Also, something to mention here on paper, I feel like the oak moss shines even more than it shines on my skin. I feel like on my skin, yes, it's present, yes, it's there, yes, it's the first thing that I'm smelling, but then quickly in the background I get this beautiful, imagine like the smell of forest berries mixed with a little bit of vanilla pudding, all these two together, but again, deep behind the oak moss, and they sit on a base of this really deep, rich, woody feel that from time to time it can almost translate a little bit as like fumé in a sense. Also, I do detect some spicy facets, but again, I feel like the spices are more of a nuance when it comes to this fragrance. You know, I feel like the oak moss is the star of the show. The creamy vanilla pudding mixed with deep fruity nuances is the star of the show, and the rich deep woody accords. Yeah, it's beautiful, you guys, very beautiful. Now, as this one starts to develop on your skin, I feel like what happens is the fruity accord, I'm talking about the heart, as this one gets closer to the heart, what it happens, the fruity accord, I feel like slowly moves forward. The oak moss is still present, but now it gets even sweeter because you have the fruity nuances that accompany it. The overall sweetness, the overall sweet accord, I feel like it gets even creamier, it gets a bit warmer, a bit richer, a bit fuller, a bit denser, and you do get something, like I said, to my nose it smells like vanilla pudding, but again, a hint of that. I feel like this fragrance to begin with is not very sweet. You do have some sweet nuances here and there, but this one is not a sweet fragrance. Don't think this is a gourmand fragrance with dark facets. No, this is a deep, heavy, strong statement fragrance with some sweet facets, you know. So like I said, you have the fruity accord that gets slightly creamier, slightly denser, slightly warmer, slightly richer, slowly moves forward as it gets closer to the heart. Still, the woody accord is still there. The woody accord, I feel like it's not your cashmeran type of woody accord, so it's not that like airy, dry, bright woody feel. I feel like it's more your like a freshly cut piece of wood from the forest type of woody accord, you know, so it's quite deep, it's quite dark, it's quite rich. If you have tried fragrances like rosewood from Ajmal, what else? Amberwood from Ajmal, you know, those types of woody accords. Okay, so this is how it smelled in the heart, and as it gets closer to the dry down, to the last bits of the dry down, I feel like it loses even more the sweetness that you once had. The fruity feel slowly start to fade away. You still do get a slight vanillic touch, again a slight fruity feel, but nothing too sweet. And I feel like the oak moss slowly moves into the background, and in the dry down it's the woody accord that shines the most to my nose, with a hint of something spicy. I don't know, like something, I don't know why my mind thinks cardamom, but like a pinch of that, you know? Yeah, beautiful. If you like Mirsaal with love, I'm telling you, especially if you like the oak moss, the way they played there with the oak moss, you will enjoy this one. If you like fragrances, like it's hard to say because honestly, I don't think this is a dupe to anything that I have tried. I saw that on Fragrantica people compare it with Club de Nuit Intense for women, the black one from Armaf. They're not similar, you guys, at all. Like, at all. That one is a deep, earthy, green rose with geranium type of scent. It's quite grounding, it's quite relaxing. I don't feel like it's very woody. I feel like it's more green from the patchouli, from the geranium with the rose there than woody, you know. Whereas this one is definitely much sweeter. I detect no rose, honestly. It's more a fruity, oak mossy, woody fragrance, you know. But especially when I smell it from here, I do get the resemblance to La Vie Est Belle, but I told you, imagine the fruity accord from La Vie Est Belle with the oak moss from Mirsaal with love, and with the woody accord from the W series from Ajmal, you know, that like typical woody accord that they use there. So yeah, performance, surprisingly guys, this lasts very long. I was able to smell it on my hand. I did like 1 or 2 sprays here, even after 6 hours. Of course, from a sample I can't tell you much about the sillage, about the projection, about everything, but longevity wise it's more than decent, and especially for the price. As a reference, I find it for around this much in euros, and I think for this price is completely worth it. But I don't feel like it's a safe blind buy, honestly, because unless you are familiar with the smell of oak moss, this can be off-putting for some people, I feel like. And if you've never tried any fragrances with a heavy dose of oak moss, how oak moss smells like to me, imagine this. First of all, it's green, it's dry, and it's slightly earthy as well. Now combine this and you have oak moss to me. So yeah. Also, perfect unisex if you ask me. I could easily see a man wearing this fragrance because it's not very sweet, you know. I feel like it does have some sweet facets, but it's not like a straightforward, typical feminine leaning fragrance, you know. And also, I feel like it shines better late summer, early autumn, winter, you know, perhaps early spring. But I feel like in very high heat, majority of people will find it quite suffocating, if you ask me. Now let's move on to the next fragrance. Now let's move on to a fragrance that personally I do not like it, so I can just like get it over with and then move on to other ones. Now this next one is Supremacy in Gold. Yeah, look, the scent itself, I don't think it's bad. but it's definitely not for someone like me. This scent has a lot of cumin, and if you are not familiar with how cumin smells in fragrances, it can smell like sweat, like body odor, you know, in certain fragrances. And I feel like here, honestly, when I smell it from the cap, you know what it smells like? It smells like, imagine like someone who sweated a lot and they are quite stanky, and you would apply on top of sweat like a peachy deodorant. You know, this is the feel it gives me when I smell it from here. When I actually apply it on my skin, when I apply it on paper, it is slightly better. But again, I feel like the deal breaker is cumin here. If you love cumin in fragrances, you have to try this fragrance because it's a very different take on cumin. You have cumin mixed with peach, with a little bit of vanilla. So yeah, let me spray it actually. See, quite alcoholic, quite cold in the opening and alcoholic in a sense. Very powdery as well. I feel like here on paper, the powdery quality of the fragrance really shines. To me, it's the same smell that you would find in like vintage makeup, you know, like vintage makeup from the past, from like a boudoir table or something like this, you know, is that type of powdery nuance in fragrances. Almost like a little bit lipsticky, but not really lipsticky, more like makeup-y type of powdery smell with a warm, round, full and dense peachy feel. And also, maybe it's the peach mixed with the powder, mixed with the cumin that makes me think of something a little bit vintage, a little bit skanky, a little bit, you know. It's a very interesting mix, I have to say. I haven't tried anything similar to this fragrance, so I have to say it's pretty unique. I don't think it smells bad in the sense that I don't think it smells cheap. I don't think it's a poorly done fragrance, but again, I feel like everyone has their deal breakers in fragrances. For me, apparently cumin is a deal breaker, especially mixed with peach and makeup powdery feel. But I can definitely picture this one on a woman, but on a woman who appreciates, first of all, cumin in fragrances, and second of all, fragrances with a slight vintage aura to them. To me, you know what it makes me, you know what this fragrance makes me think of? It makes me think of, how was that fragrance? Cinema from Yves Saint Laurent. For whatever reason, it makes me think a bit of that fragrance. Imagine you add to that fragrance a little bit of cumin, you take out the almonds, you amplify the peachy feel there, you add some like powdery makeup-y feel. Yeah, and that's that. Again, as it develops, it gets much warmer, slightly more deep. The cumin, I have to say, in this part, or at least on paper, in the opening closer to the heart, it doesn't really shine as much, but when I smell it here, basically when you spray fragrances, what's left here after you spray it, as the fragrance will develop through time, you will be able to smell the dry down of the fragrance, you know, when you just smell it from the cap. Yeah, I feel like in the dry down, that's when the cumin shines a lot. So yeah. Very unique, creative, artistic, unapologetic type of fragrance. I feel like more women would enjoy it than men because of the peachiness here and because of the smell of vintage makeup. But it's not bad. It's not bad, but it's not for me. Look, I am not very familiar with cumin in fragrances. I feel like I've only tried another fragrance. I've only tried, how is that one called? From Swiss Arabian Oud Suede. Yeah, but there I feel like the cumin doesn't shine as much. I feel like they're legit. After, let's just say, the fragrance gets through the opening, through the heart, it gets closer to the dry down. To me, that one legit smells like a rose-scented burning incense stick, you know? So I don't get a lot of the cumin, whereas here I do get it. I do get it, and I'm telling you, for some, I feel like it will be a deal breaker. Also, let me know, do you love the smell of cumin in fragrances? Or do you love the smell of cumin in real life? I know it can be quite an overpowering spice even to use, you know, for cooking. So yeah, those are my thoughts about this one. Unfortunately for me, it's a pass, simply because I cannot tolerate it, and the way they played here with the peach, with like peach, something vintagey with the cumin, for me it's a bit too much. And I can definitely tell you that this has the potential to trigger your headaches. I remember when I sprayed it on my skin, I smelled it for, I don't know, like 20-30 minutes, you know, I kept smelling it and like writing my thoughts about it. Yeah, it low-key kind of, I kind of felt like a headache coming, you know. So yeah, let's move on to the third one. This is TURATHI Brown from Afnan. You know what, let's just move through the Afnan fragrances, then we will go to the Lattafa ones. Now, this one is a very beautiful and unique fragrance to me. It's very relaxing type of fragrance. Honestly, if this one wouldn't lean so masculine, I will actually spray it on my skin, because I feel like for you to get the true, sorry if I hit the mic, for you to get the true beauty of this fragrance, you need to apply it on your skin. On paper, it doesn't do any justice with like the majority of fragrances to get like, I mean, I feel like on paper you can get like the scent of the fragrance, but you cannot feel the warmth of the fragrance. You can feel the texture of the fragrance, you know, you can feel those details that I feel like at the end of the day make a difference in how you perceive a fragrance, you know. This is why I say every time you have the possibility, try a fragrance on your skin. Even when you go to fragrance stores, spray less fragrances, try less fragrances, but try them on your skin, you know, especially the ones you are truly interested in, because it's very important to see how it will smell in contact with the warmth of your skin, you know, how it does develop on your skin, how it does last on your skin, and how you overall feel about this fragrance on your skin. Okay, so let me apply this fragrance as well. This fragrance smells very unique in a sense that it smells like, it legit smells like a forest after a heavy rain at like the sunset, you know, so it's kind of chilly out there. You get lots and lots of greenness in this fragrance, but how to say, like, I detect two types of green accords in this fragrance. On one hand, and the one that's the most pronounced to my nose, is this, imagine the smell of like dewy, fleshy, leafy greens after the rain. So it's like green, but it's crisp, it's kind of chilly. It also smells damp, slightly earthy in a sense, but not earthy like soil, earthy in a sense that it smells like grounding, you know. It makes me feel very relaxed when I smell this fragrance. Yeah, and I feel like especially in the opening, this is the smell that I get the most. It smells dewy, like damp or wet, but again, not wet like damp, wet basement type of scent from patchouli, you know, no. Like damp, wet, fleshy, like full fleshy leafy greens, you know. So you have this green accord on one hand with a slight peppery kick in a sense. I don't know if it has listed pepper. I do detect something that's like peppery-like. And I feel like what it does, the pepperiness, at least to my nose, what it translates as peppery, it gives a lot of dimension of like, basically it makes the green accord feel very vibrant, feel very energizing, very alive, but at the same time cold, grounding, you know, slightly earthy, slightly meditative in a sense. But it makes it very vibrant, you know, it's not like a flat green smell, it's like a very multifaceted green smell to me. So you have this green accord, you know, with the like damp, dewy, fleshy leaves, but you also have something that to my nose smells almost like a little bit piney in the background, you know, like you have some pine trees there in the forest, you get the smell of damp wood a little bit, but not too much to the point where it's overbearing. I feel like the woody facet is more in the background. You do get a slight earthy feel, again, deep in the background. I know this has listed an amber accord. You guys, to me, this is not your typical ambery forward fragrance. You know that amber, first of all, it's an imaginary accord. It's an accord used basically it's an accord created with the help of a lot of other notes in fragrances. You know, you have benzoin, you have labdanum, you have vanilla, you have a lot of other fragrances that can, not fragrances, notes that can create an amber accord. But usually what an amber accord is supposed to give to a fragrance, I feel like, first of all, from like a utility point, I don't know if that's the proper explanation in English, but I hope you get what I say. It's supposed to give a lot of richness to the fragrance, you know. It's supposed to, basically it's used in the base to create a heavier, deeper, denser, more decadent base. It's used to create a lot of support for the other notes. And from a scent perspective, I feel like what you actually smell when you smell an amber accord, of course I feel like it depends on each particular amber accord, because each amber accord can be very different, you know, but it's supposed to give you this sensation of warmth, you know, of something that smells warm, dense and rich, you know. It's supposed to give you this like fullness effect. I feel like here, even though I do think this has listed an amber accord, if not, I'm sure it's like in the, I saw it on Fragrantica if I remember correctly, but to me, yeah, this is not an ambery fragrance. This fragrance, quite the opposite. It's quite cold, it's quite deep, it's quite green. You have different types of green facets. Also, it's quite woody in a sense. It does feel robust, but not robust in a sense that you have a bunch of different facets thrown in together and they're very warm and complex. No, to me, it is an interesting fragrance. It is an interesting fragrance. I don't think it's the kind of fragrance that everyone would appreciate. Also, I don't think it's the kind of fragrance that it's easy to blind buy as a man, especially if you're, let's just say, younger and you want something that's like a compliment getter, like women will go crazy for your fragrance. I don't know. I think it takes more of a creative person to appreciate this fragrance. And even though I'm not the biggest fan of green nuances in fragrances, at least on me, but when it comes to masculine fragrances, I actually appreciate them a lot. And I feel like this is a beautiful example of a green fragrance done well. Again, keep in mind, green facets in fragrances can come in so many different scent families and in so many different scent profiles. You know, you have green from the citruses, you can have a green and bitter, green and earthy, green and herbal, green and aromatic from patchouli, a green dry and earthy from vetiver, or like a freshly cut green grass type of smell, again from vetiver. You can also have this like dried herbs type of feel, you know, or you can have a very like minty type of green feel in fragrances from basil, but usually that basil in fragrances comes across as like slightly minty, but also with a very pronounced herbal undertone, you know, or you can have the smell of mint as well, you know, of course, lots of different green facets. Now to me, legit, I feel like when I smell this fragrance, like if I were to like close my eyes and smell this fragrance, I would feel like I'm in the forest after the rain, as it's about to get dark. So it's very chilly. I get the different wet after the rain smell, you know, from the leaves, from the soil, from the trees in a sense, but more from the leaves. Okay, so as this one starts to develop, I feel like the woody core definitely moves forward. You do start to get this like rich, deep woody feel from the fragrance. You still have the greenness, both the piney type of green as well as the leafy green, like the damp leafy green. Overall, I think it's a beautiful fragrance. I think it's a fragrance that, again, I find it a bit more creative. I find it very grounding, very calming, very relaxing. Yeah, I think it's a fragrance that if you enjoy what I've described so far, honestly, it's worth testing it. So let's continue with the fragrances from Lattafa. And I want to continue with the fragrance that in the past week, I got quite a lot of questions about it. This one is called Nasheet. Yeah, like I said, hold on. It's from Lattafa. Let me get a sip of coffee and I will be back. Okay, this one I actually want to apply it on my skin because later this day, I want to try out some layering combos with this one. Yeah, this is beautiful. Like, I got questions if I could try this fragrance, but I also got recommendations to try this fragrance because it smells very beautiful, and it is very beautiful, you guys. And the person who recommended this fragrance to me, it was very right. I do enjoy this fragrance a lot, and I'm surprised because look, this is compared to Annie by Nishane. I haven't tried Annie from Nishane, but I heard that it's supposed to be a vanilla with spices, citruses, and some green facets. And again, like me being me, when I heard like vanilla with citruses, I was like, oh my god, no. And then with green facets, I was like, oh my god, no. But I have to, how do you say, like I have to eat my words, you know, the expression in English, because this one actually surprised me in the best way possible. Definitely test the fragrance. If you're not a fan of citruses, if you're not a fan of green facets, but you love vanilla and you love the smell of ginger and cardamom in fragrances, test this fragrance. It's completely worth it in my opinion. Perfect unisex, perfect unisex. Okay, also something I wanted to add. After I tried this fragrance, I looked up the notes for this fragrance. Now, grant you, I only looked up the notes on Fragrantica. You guys, the notes on Fragrantica, I'm telling you, those notes listed there, which are these ones, they only justify the base of this fragrance, but the base, not even the full base, like the last bits of the dry down of the fragrance. This fragrance has so many other beautiful notes. So don't be put off by the notes you see on Fragrantica. Again, maybe I should have checked to see the notes on other websites, but I completely forgot, honestly. But I really wanted to mention this because when you look at the notes, you see nutmeg, you see guaiac wood, you see another woody accord. So it's not really the most appealing fragrance, you know, it's not really the fragrance that you look at the notes and you're like, oh my god, I really wanted a fragrance with guaiac wood and nutmeg. But when you smell this fragrance, totally different vibe. So let me actually apply this one on my skin. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful fragrance. So basically, I will tell you how this one smells like to me. Now, to me, first of all, this is a citrusy, sweet, spicy, warm vanillic sandalwood fragrance. And what does this mean to me? Basically, right when you apply it, I'm hit with the citruses. When it comes to the citruses, I detect two types of citruses. On one hand, I detect clearly a very pronounced zingy, lemony feel. But it's almost like imagine like the smell of a freshly squeezed lemon juice, but you add there like a teaspoon of sugar and you stir it very well, because you do get the zingy feel from the lemon, you do get that like pronounced lemony feel, but it's not refreshing and it's not acidic. I feel like it's more sweet, so that's the lemon. Then I get the bergamot. The bergamot to me, the bergamot in the opening, it's quite cold and a bit refreshing. You do have this like cold, refreshing bergamot in the opening as well. So that's the citrusy accord. You have these two citruses that sit on a base of, that's so beautiful, that sit on a vanilla sandalwood base. And why I say that it's a vanilla mixed with sandalwood, it's because first of all, clearly you have the sweetness from the vanilla, but you also have this creaminess and warmth from the sandalwood that I feel like as it gets closer to the heart of the fragrance, the creaminess shines even more and it almost feels buttery biscuit in a sense. And you also have the spices. Now to me in the opening I detect cardamom and I detect I detect a little bit of cardamom, because I do get that fresh green spicy tinge that usually cardamom gives you fragrances, but I also detect lots and lots and lots and lots of beautiful powdered ginger or grounded ginger, or however it's called in English. It's not the refreshing ginger, it's not the freshly cut ginger that's energizing, that's vibrating, you know, that's like full of energy. To me it's the powdered ginger, so it's slightly more sweet and more spicy than citrusy, even though ginger is not a citrus, I think, you know. So I get all of this on this beautiful, warm, rich, dense vanilla sandalwood base. It's so beautiful. It's lemony, but again like a sweetened up lemon with sugar. It's spicy, but again beautiful spices, lots of ginger. I feel like it's the type of ginger that you have in Instant Crush from Mancera, in Super Crush from Paris Corner, in Noir Parfum by Tom Ford, and in all the other inspirations of all the other fragrances in the Noir family from Tom Ford, you know, like Noir Extreme, Noir Parfum. Is that exact type of ginger. So it's not again refreshing, cold, energizing, it's more warm, slightly sweet and powdery type of ginger. To me, you know what it smells like, you guys, honestly, especially as this one gets closer to the heart of the fragrance. To me it legit smells like you just freshly baked, or like you freshly took out of the oven some ginger biscuits. You squeeze the juice of one lemon, you add there like few teaspoons of sugar, you stir that juice very well, you pour it on top of the ginger biscuits, and then you sprinkle even more powdered ginger at the end, you know, and you get all these different nuances. It's very warm, it's very dense, it's very rich, it's very full. Like I said, the citrusiness from the opening, especially the bergamot, completely fades away. You still get the lemony aspect, but the lemon, again, is not like your acidic type of lemon, that like cold acidic lemon. It's like your lemon juice with sugar type of lemon, you know? With the powdered ginger, with the vanilla mixed with sandalwood, it feels legit, it feels biscuity, it feels creamy, biscuity, buttery even in the heart of the fragrance. That's my favorite part. I feel like the heart of the fragrance, to me, smells delicious. I never thought that I would enjoy citruses in fragrances as much as I enjoy citruses in this fragrance, but keep in mind it's because it's also, you don't just have the citruses, you know, you also have the sweet base that to me works very well paired with the citruses in a sense. Because if I were to get like lots of, I don't know, like grapefruit, lemon, lime, bergamot, so on and so forth on a woody base without any sweetness, now that would have been a completely different story. But I feel like because you have the sweetness, because you have this very warm, full, rich, dense base, quite gourmand leaning from time to time, I feel like that's why it works so well here, you know? And I love ginger in fragrances, but again, powdered ginger, I love it in fragrances. It's beautiful. As this fragrance gets closer to the dry down, that's when you get the notes that are listed on Fragrantica. That's when you start to lose the biscuity, buttery, creamy feel, you know, from the vanilla mixed with the sandalwood. You still have the vanilla, but the vanilla now, imagine, it sits on the base of a dry woody accord, so it's slightly less full, you know, slightly less round, less rich, slightly more dry in a sense, with a slight lemon feel, with a slight gingery feel, you know. But yeah, as it gets closer to the dry down, definitely loses that gourmand nuance, let's say, and it gets slightly deeper, slightly drier and woodier as well. It's not a linear fragrance, it does change. Of course, it doesn't have like a crazy development, you know, it's not the kind of fragrance that smells completely different in the opening and in the dry down. To me, it's still in the same scent family, you know, this like warm, sweet, spicy, citrusy scent family, but it just loses the gourmand leaning aspect, let's just say. So yeah, to me, men could easily pull this one off. But keep in mind, you need to appreciate sweeter fragrances, even though, how to explain, you guys, don't think this is like crazy sweet fragrance. It does have sweetness to it, but it's not like a crazy sweet fragrance, you know. Now let's move on to the last two fragrances from Lattafa. I will continue with AREEQ Gold. This fragrance, it took me a while to understand it, honestly, because when I first tried it for the few times, I was like, what the hell I'm smelling? It's very different. I don't know what it's supposed to dupe, but it's very different. Again, it smells unusual. It's not the kind of fragrance that you smell everywhere. Like, it smells very interesting. It smells, first of all, it does have an accord that slightly reminds me of Vie Est Gold by Lattafa, but just a little bit, you know. To me, the accord that ties these two fragrances together is that like sugared suede accord. To me, this is how it smells. But Vie Est also, it's a bit more metallic to me. To me, this one smells sweet, creamy, and metallic with sugar, like a sugared suede accord, you know. This one smells creamy. You know those like those pencils that on one hand they would have like a rubber with like lots of designs on them. I will try to insert some pictures. Or those like rubbers that you would use in school, you know, those like really cheap ones that smelled very sweet but rubbery. You have this exact same feel here in the opening. It smells sweet, creamy, rubbery, green, tea-like green, but again, the greenness, I feel like it's more in the background behind the sweet, creamy, rubbery feel. And as it develops, I do get that like sugared suede accord. I don't know if it has anything like this, but to me, this is how it smells. It's creative, it's different, it's out there. I feel like it's bold. I feel like you need to be a person who's very, first of all, who's very open-minded, you know, because you don't smell like vanilla or like cookies or like rose and oud even, you know. You smell like something that's very abstract to me. I don't think a lot of people will appreciate this fragrance, but I feel like if you enjoy fragrances, again, that are a bit weird and different and creative, not a bad kind of weird, because I don't think it smells cheap or it smells off, but I think a good kind of weird, but still weird, you know. Like, I don't know if I could pull off this fragrance. I feel like it's definitely way out of my comfort zone compared to the kind of fragrances I usually reach for, even though I like heavier fragrances, but I feel like the sweet rubbery feel that's also a little bit creamy. This fragrance out of nowhere, you guys, feels creamy, which I think it's even like it even adds more to the creative side of the fragrance, you know. It feels creamy, sweet, rubbery, with a tea-like feel in the background and with something that's like sugary and leathery. But keep in mind, I didn't get the sugary, leathery, creamy feel from the first moment I tried it. The first few times I tried this fragrance, honestly, I didn't really know what was I smelling. Like, it took me a while. Maybe it also took me a while because the fragrance needed to sit. Again, I have these ones since I first spoke about Nebras, I think. And I just let them sit, you know, especially this one because I wasn't really feeling it at that moment. QIAM Gold again, because it's more of a masculine fragrance to me, you know, so I wasn't really interested in like properly trying them, you know. But I was like, now since the autumn season is approaching and the fragrances have sit for a while, let me see if anything changes. And in the case of AREEQ Gold, it actually, things changed for the better. Again, I don't know if I will ever wear this fragrance because it's not really me, but I'm telling you, I am intrigued by it and I will definitely test it more. And so far, the performance of this fragrance is really good. I don't think it lasts as well as AREEQ Gold, but it's close to that one, you know. It's a heavy, it's a strong, it's a deep, rich, decadent type of fragrance, you know. So yeah, performance, I don't think it's an issue with this fragrance. Now let's move on to the last fragrance, which is QIAM Gold. Again, I think, but don't quote me on this, but I think that the gold ones are marketed for women and the silver ones are marketed for men. Don't quote me on that. But this one, if anything, I feel like it's more masculine leaning, or if not, then unisex, but it's definitely not a feminine leaning fragrance to me. See, this one, right when I smelled it for the first time, it reminded me immediately of a fragrance that I have in my collection from a sub-brand of Afnan that's called Penthouse Windsor. And there I was told that it's supposed to be an inspiration of Ombre Nomade. I always mix Ombre Nomade with Ombre Leather, but I think it's Ombre Nomade. The one from Louis Vuitton. This is cold, it's deep, it's a cold, rosy raspberry mix with something that smells like cold concrete walls and something slightly leathery in the background. Also a tad of something green, a tad of something almost like incensey, but an incense that's not burnt, you know, like you just smell the incense, because it doesn't have a smoky effect on me. Just like the other fragrance from Afnan, I find this fragrance is very relaxing. I don't know why, but they make me think of like a Gothic church, you know, with like very like high, cold concrete walls. Something very moody, something very like melancholic in a sense. Yeah, it's beautiful, but I feel like now I prefer rose in much warmer mixes with much sweeter notes as a base. This one, if you're a man and you want something with rose that doesn't scream feminine, or that's not sweet, or that's not, how to say, too girly, too something this and that, maybe you want something with rose, but a rose that's more deep than sweet, with heavier nuances, I think you will enjoy this one. But again, if you have any other dupes of Ombre Nomade, keep in mind, I think they will be very similar. I haven't tried Ombre Nomade, but I have tried the other one that's supposed to be an inspiration of Ombre Nomade, and to me it smells just like Penthouse Windsor from Afnan Rubroka, something like this. Yeah, it's a bit earthy, smells like also like a little bit gasoline-like, a little bit leathery. Maybe gasoline goes hand in hand with the way they did the leather accord here, I'm not sure. But yeah, as it develops, basically the leather starts to shine more, that like gasoline feel starts to shine more a bit, the depth and the darkness of the fragrance move forward. I feel like the raspberry slowly fades away, the rose is still there, but let's just say it moves behind the other notes. Yeah, interesting fragrance. To me, it's definitely more of a masculine fragrance. I feel like I wouldn't personally wear it, but if this one on a man with a proper outfit, because this one, you guys, this is a bold and a heavy fragrance. This is not the kind of fragrance that you wear when you go to the gym, I feel like, you know. This is the kind of fragrance that you wear when you want to feel powerful, when you want to feel serious, and when you wear a suit or something like this, I feel like, or for more special, like more elegant occasions to me. So yes, you guys, those were the fragrances for today's video. Have you tried any of the fragrances? If you have, please share your thoughts about them down below. I'd love to hear your experiences with any of these fragrances, especially if you have Nasheet in your collection. Let me know some layering ideas that you love with this fragrance. I already have a few layering ideas in mind. Maybe, you know, I started the series with layering. Maybe I will do a layering series, like a layering video for this fragrance, but I need to test a bit more and I need to play with it a little bit more. This one, TURATHI Purple, really surprised me, honestly. I want to finish my sample that I have here and then I will see if I want to buy it. But I think for this autumn season, I feel like it's a scent that I can definitely picture myself wearing, you know. This one, the other one, Supremacy Gold, honestly, for me, again, for me, it's a miss, but yeah, test it for yourself. Test it for yourself, because the fragrance itself is not bad, but again, I feel like it's for a select handful of people who appreciate this kind of notes. It's just like with rose and oud fragrances, you know, some people say that oud smells like shit, and why would you want to smell like that? Other people say that oud is the most beautiful, meditative, amazing smell in the world, you know, so I feel like it's a matter of taste. This one, TURATHI Brown, beautiful fragrance, more mature. But if you are interested in these types of fragrances, it's worth sampling it. Also, please don't blind buy the fragrances. It's better to buy samples or buy decants or smell them if you have the possibility than to blind buy them, because you guys, fragrance is something so subjective, and instead of just like recklessly spending your money on tons of fragrances that you end up not enjoying, better sample first and then invest your money in fragrances that you love and they make you very happy and they put a smile on your face every time you wear them, you know. So yes, let me put my coffee here. Okay, so thank you so much for watching, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, leave me a comment, subscribe, activate the notification bell, show some support. I would really appreciate that. So yes, if you want to tell me anything, please put it in the comment section. Don't forget, you can follow me on Instagram if you want. I will see you in my next video, but until then, thank you so much for watching and I want to wish you an amazing day wherever you are. Bye guys.